We're going to be talking about Week 11 here. Rody, starting things off, how are you doing today, man?
Doing good, man. I had a rough night last night. It was a late one, but I'm grinding out this morning, going light again this week. Working on building a set of core lineups, so making my life easier here.
Yeah, I got you. By the way, Sheets will be joining us shortly. We are going to keep it rolling and give people some time to come in. What was that? What was happening last night? You out with the boys or something?
Kind of just going out, hitting some drinks, had a few drinks, and just kind of kept a late night, So
yeah. I was actually usually I'd be with you on a Saturday night, but I'm not with you specifically, but I've been doing the same thing. But I took it easy last night, and yet I still feel like I didn't do anything really. I had a barbecue with some friends, had literally like a beer, and still I feel like drowsy this morning and trying to make sense of this whole slate. We did just get news that Lamar Jackson is out today, so do not play Lamar Jackson. And that sort of makes that game kind of weird. I was interested in playing some Fields, and I'm still going to play a little bit of them, but I don't know. I sort of like the idea of the back and forth and getting some Fields lineup, some Lamar, and even if Lamar played, I wasn't going to go based on what the doctors were saying about him, that he was having trouble, breathing and stuff. What are we doing on this slate? So let's talk about, we did our pick show. What, if anything, has changed, and then what games are you targeting the most today?
Yeah, obviously that Dallas KC game is going to be the way to go. I mean, there's pieces in their Gallup chalk week now with Amari out. I don't think that news was out when we did the pick show. So Gallup's going to be pretty chalky today. You got A.J. Dillon with Jones out on the Green Bay side. So those guys are going to be chalky. Jeff Wilson for San Francisco looks to be chalky. Mark Ingram again back for the Saints again. So just depending on what you guys want to do, taking in on the chalk side of it, or looking at getting different with paying up to like a Christian McCaffrey, or I think you talked a little Jonathan Taylor in that Allen to dig stack type option there. But I know there's some weather concerns in that game.
Yep.
So I'm a little worried about Buffalo now, a little bit more. There's some wind late and some rain coming late. But, we'll see on that. And then also the Tennessee game's got some weather too, guys. So I'm kind of liking that Houston defense we talked about. The total's still high for Tennessee, but I know Houston gives up a lot to pass receivers. So like an A.J. Brown could have a good bounce back week 2 in that. So you can play either side of that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I get all that. Sheets, how you doing, man? How you feeling today?
A little bit better. Really was really under the weather. I thought I had pneumonia going into last night, but I feel a little bit better today. Yeah, but had a pretty okay weekend in DFS actually. Just in fringe stuff. I got like third in like the showdown in golf yesterday.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, I put that up in 20 just screw around lineups. I got I did pretty well in the soccer yesterday, so made a little bit of dough over there. And today I get to watch. And this happens a lot. I get to watch the guy I bet outright last week in golf win. Probably.
I knew that was going to happen, man. I knew it. Right when I saw him, just even in the top 25 on day one, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, the Gooch is going to take it down, I'm sure.
Yeah, but, probably.
But that's cool. So, what did you guys go over your favorite games yet, or where are you?
Rody went through some of his. We've got and we're getting some news in right now, as we expected. Allen Robinson, Damian Williams, and Horsted are all out for Chicago. No Lamar. But yeah, Sheets, what games are you targeting this week?
First of all, is there news on Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
We're not going to know that till the afternoon.
Okay.
But you can pivot. You can pivot over from a couple other guys in that. You can play Darrell Williams and pivot over to him directly. They're $200 apart on DraftKings. And even if he goes, am I crazy? But why are they playing him anyway? I would rather play Williams if I were them. If I'm the Chiefs, I would have Williams has been the better back between the two of them. That's my take anyway. But I don't know if he goes. That's what makes me nervous. Is what if we're looking at sort of like a shared split? So I'm sort of staying away a little bit from that spot personally.
So where I'm at with my it's interesting with my games. It's really site dependent for me. So I'm going to go over this, and I'm going to go over Yahoo also. let me do DraftKings first. So on DraftKings, I guess I'm on the same team I was before, and it was pretty chalky. But my main team is probably going to be Vegas and Cincinnati this week on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, I'm getting to more Kansas City. I'm doing more Kansas City over there. That would be FanDuel. Actually, FanDuel more Kansas City and Cincinnati. And then on Yahoo, I'm also more Cincinnati and KC. But what's interesting, and I want to talk to you about this, Rody, because you know this team pretty well, is I'm a little nervous having so much of this Green Bay Minnesota thing. Just because, look, it could go a lot of ways, this Green Bay Minnesota game. Look, everybody they got a lot of skill players, but they also got I don't know. That feels like 13-10 is in the offing also. But I'll tell you, right now in my DraftKings big one, I'm actually stacking the Minnesota side, which I'm not getting that much of in my other stuff, and that's sometimes the way I build. It's really weird. I end up getting somebody that's in that big one that's not as highly owned by me in some of the other stuff. So I'm going to be going for this Minnesota Green Bay thing, and the good thing is, worst case scenario, there's always the main slate. The afternoon slate. That one doesn't work out because the afternoon slate is where I'm basically and pretty much everybody's pretty heavily loaded on most everything else. But let me ask you this, but I guess both of you guys on the early slate, the early part of the day, I feel as though if you could get if you can get something going aside from the Green Bay game, which I think people will play. Then you get that done. That'll be pretty low on whatever that is. Do you guys like anything in the early slate?
Yeah, I know that there's weather concerns. I'm still going to go a little bit of Josh Allen personally to Diggs, and I like some individual plays in the early slate. But I really feel like for me, most of my lineups are going to start in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I do have some interest in that the Green Bay game. I actually agree with you though too. I think that it could go. It could definitely go one of two ways. And I could see. Green Bay's defense has been good, and Minnesota's defense has looked better. Rody, where do you stand with that game? Because that is sort of an early one we have to decide on.
Yeah, I just like that game because you're going to get Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook kind of lower owned, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those guys are all coming in lower owned. Dalvin Cook's probably the highest one, but we got so many good value options at running back today. You don't need that. I love Justin Jefferson today, and I love Adam Thielen at 6'6". He just fit a build for me earlier. So I really like that game in general. I have a Rodgers stack with Dylan and Adams as well with Justin Jefferson bring back. You can get there. I think Sheets, you talked that Cincinnati Vegas game too. That's a good game. So yeah, those are some of the games that I'm going to be on, just like what Sheets was saying. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about what you said about the running backs. I think it's a really important discussion this week. And I'm also looking at somebody, throwing in the Discord thing. Are you capping, Ingram and AJ Dillon, for example? So I think this is a very important discussion. They were talking about it in some of the other shows too. So you have the three guys, as far as I'm concerned, that are popping on the points per dollar projections all over the place for good reason, right? Between Wilson, Ingram, and AJ Dillon. And you can argue which is better than the other one or whatever it is. But I think that even throughout the industry, I think good points are really being made in that they're definitely the best plays, but I don't think by enough. I don't think they're the best plays to the degree that their ownership is going to reference, and I think that's really important for the Millie Maker and for the any big GPP is that a projection of 19 as opposed to a projection of 21 is really not much when you're talking about a 40% owned guy versus a 10% owned guy. And I don't know exactly what pivots we could talk about them all day long, but there are a lot of obvious ones out there that I feel as though that's an important point that just has to be brought up. That look, in cash, I'll tell you, just so you guys know, I'm going to play cash this week. I'm going to use my optimals, and I'm going to play cash. I'm going to play all three of them. I just am. I'm going to play all three of them in cash, and I'm going to play the chalk line. I'm going to play freaking Higgins and Gallup. You know what I mean? Like the obvious dudes. But in GPPs, I just feel as though you're supposed to just do something else as opposed to playing Dylan Wilson, Ingram. You know what I mean?
Well, the one thing is, though, there are too many of them for them to be too owned. That's one thing. I prefer Myles Gaskin to most of those guys. I think I have the most exposure on him. He's going to be lower owned on that side. Montgomery's going to be lower owned, which is surprising because he's 5,500, and I like the matchup actually for him. I'm not going to probably do the Alex Collins thing, but that's another route you could go on the same, on the same cheap tier. Michael Carter is another one that fits that, but I'm not actually playing much Michael Carter. The other ones I've got, I'm just looking at my ownerships right here. I agree that maybe you're supposed to do something different, but like I have a lot of interest in Zeke in that game, and you'd think that matchup and everything that Zeke would be popular, but he's not going to be. I think Chubb is very reasonable, and I think Mixon is another one you can play all in that same range. That's the way I would try to get different, along with McCaffrey, of course. But you have to worry about the McCaffrey, the Cam Newton vulture with McCaffrey. That's the only thing that I don't love.
What about you, Rody? Because you play a lot of the big buy-in stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't worry as much about it. On the one hand, you don't have to worry much about ownership as people playing just the millie. But yet, on the other hand, I remember you used to do this way in baseball. I don't know if we ever talked about how you play football, but even in the big buy-in stuff where you don't have to fade ownership, you do take some pretty good stands against some of the chalk sometimes in some key spots. So, like, is this the type of day that in your bigger buy-ins you'd be inclined to fade one or two of those guys, or you just want to roll with those and try to get different elsewhere?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of mixed on it. I think A.J. Dillon's kind of like the guy that I feel the best about.
Okay.
Jeff Wilson I feel the least about. Mark Ingram's kind of in the middle. But I do like some of the other guys. I have a lineup with Gaskin. I have a lineup with Collins. So I have a lineup with extra flex receiver versus, the 3 running back build. So for cash, obviously, guys, I'm going to be using the three running backs, like Sheets said.
Yeah.
Dillon preferably is my favorite one, and maybe not as fade much. His salary's a little harder to get to versus the other two fit a little bit better. But I feel like I can just get different with like a Justin Jefferson at 4%, and playing Rodgers with that stack at 2%. In the bigger buy-ins, and you're already different, a little bit different there, and throw a Gaskin in there, kind of mid-range, and a couple lower owned tight ends. Tight ends kind of a mixed bag today. So you can get different without having to get off that chalk today. But I did like CMC, but we got to worry about Cam Newton stealing that. I mean, CMC could have 40 points last week. But he didn't.
He didn't even play the fourth quarter.
Hey, I want to bring up another guy that for Bobby. I want to ask him if he still likes him.
Yes, I do.
Because
Antonio Gibson?
No. Oh. So early in the week, I brought up a team, and you're like, "What about this guy?" I'm like, "Okay," and then he was ignored all week by the industry, and then you did your show with Rody, and Rody's like, "I like this." You're like, "Well, what about this guy?" And he's like, "I guess," and he continues to be unlooked at by the industry. With everybody playing this Vegas game and playing like Hunter Renfrow, do you still like Braylon Edwards?
Bryan Edwards. Yeah,
Bryan
I do.
Edwards.
I do like Bryan Edwards. I actually think he's a good pivot off of Gallup, or to play in addition to Gallup. I think Rondale Moore is the other one. If we think Kyler's going to go, which I am very, very, very skeptical about. But I think that he's a better play if he's in there. I think that if we don't have him, I know it's a different price range, but I like Kirk. I actually right now have 30% of Bryan Edwards. I think I need to fix that, but I have a lot of interest in that game in general. I didn't really go through my games, and we'll get to the questions in just a minute, but I really like that game. Obviously there's a chalky, the Chase, Higgins, Boyd. I have exposure to all of them, and especially Chase and Higgins. But I think Bryan Edwards is a really logical play as a cheap option on the other side of that. And I have more of him than I do of anybody else from the Raiders, with the exception of on FanDuel. Actually, on both sides, I have a lot of Waller, but I like that game, and I'm going to be overweight on the Chiefs in Dallas, pretty much in all spots. I know it's a popular game. I still think it has the best chance to really go off, and there's ways to get different with it. I also don't think that, I'm going to double check Kelsey's projected ownership right now, because what I was seeing all week was very little ownership in Kelsey, and I think it's popped up now to 12%. Yeah, okay. I'm going to be I have 40% Kelsey. I like the double tight end builds this week, along with the running back and the flex. I think the wide receiver might actually be lower owned, but not lower than the double tight end. But I think I have a lot of Kelsey and Waller lineups. which I just think even though they're both going to be the most popular tight ends, I don't think that many people are playing the two of those guys in the same lineups together. And it gets me exposure to both of my favorite games if I do something like that. And they both have, wide receiver slate breaking type of upside. So I really like those situations. I right now, just to go through some of the ownerships I've got. I mean, I've got 38% of AJ Dillon right now. I might end up lowering that. I've got 25% of Montgomery, 25% of Wilson, 35% of Gaskin. Gaskin I really like. I have 20% of Connor to answer the X Factors question. I'm iffy on how much I love the Connor play, but again, if we don't have Kyler, I actually think that's going to hurt Connor. He had the monster week that 1 week, but they may have trouble in this game. We saw them look really, really bad against Carolina, who actually probably has a better defense than they're facing today in the Seahawks. But I like Connor, and I have my Connor pairing is I'm going to have a lot of Connor with DK Metcalf on the other side of that game. I love Metcalf today, and I think that he has an absolutely monster week this week. So that's the way I'm going. I'm also going to play some Lockett, but Lockett's going to be a little more popular. Let's get to some more questions. Rody, why don't you fill in some of the other plays that you're heavy overweight on right now, and then Cheats, you can maybe go with some of the other guys you like at wide receiver and tight end.
Yeah, I like that not Lockett, but DK Metcalf call. I'm trying to get to a little bit more of him. I really like him this week. He's kind of not as low owned as he was earlier. He's up to like 10, 11%, but I feel like Lockett's going to be owned more, but they're about the same right now. So we'll see how that shakes out. Yeah, I mean, I'm off the T Higgins as much. I do like Chase a little bit more in that game. I was on Gallup before the news came out about Cooper too. So like, I'm really mad about that one, but I was already on Gallup. I've been on him. I'm really trying to want to play Rondale Moore a little bit more too. I know you talked about him, but I'm like, I haven't been able to pull the trigger on that one quite yet. It doesn't sound like a bad idea. I really like it. So I'm off any Baltimore running backs in that game. I know people are starting to talk like Freeman. I think Latavius Murray's back. I don't want to play any of that crap. So I don't know where you guys at on that type of running back type play.
Yeah, well, I just want to throw out something too, because you mentioned the Gallup. We know how popular Gallup's going to be. I'm not buying the 20% projected. I think he's going to be like 35% in the big ones, maybe higher. Gallup. I think Cedric Wilson is a really interesting pivot to go down to him. I don't think people are playing him as a low. I mean, maybe he gets 5% ownership or something like that. But if I have so much exposure to that game, why not throw a few Cedric Wilsons in there? And either in addition to Gallup, as part of a stack, or separate from Gallup. Any thoughts on Wilson from either of you guys? Rody, first.
I don't have Wilson, but I seen it's a good play for 3.2K. So
I just think it's like no one's doing that, and now he sort of gets to take that that third receiver role. He's got some big playability against a team that gives up big plays. I just think it's kind of interesting. Cheats, did he cross your path at all? I know he's not projecting great, so maybe he didn't come up with him, but just wondering if you thought about him at all.
Cedric Wilson?
Yeah.
Let me see. I mean, it's possible that I got some of him. So let me look. It seems to make sense, right?
Right. And yeah, if I'm going to play 50% of my games with that stack, I want to get exposure. But maybe if I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't be getting so much of it.
Let me just see if I got any of him. No, I didn't get to any of them. But like you said, I mean, because I'm more projection oriented, I'm probably not going to get to too much of him. But
okay.
But I definitely feel as though, like in the late slate, I would certainly play him.
Yeah, and as I said before, another way to get off the chalky running backs is to play Antonio Gibson at 5,900, and no one's going to play. It's a tough run defense, no question, but they really workhorse that guy. Like they're going to give him the work. He looks like he's back to being healthy, so I have some interest in that play. We got a question from David. Thoughts on Rodgers, Burrow, Carr, Tua? And I would have it ranked exactly I'd have Burrow 1, Rodgers 2 of that group, Carr 3, Tua, Cousins, then Tua. I don't know who Tom Brady. I don't know what you're playing that has Tom Brady in it. That's not on the main slate.
Which one are you looking at? Oh, Aaron Rodgers, Joe. Okay, so I'm gonna answer this. For DK GPP 150 max. So you're asking kind of like the wrong question, right? Not the wrong question. Because you're pairing them with other guys, right? So what you're asking is thoughts on Rodgers with Adams as opposed to Burrow with Higgins and Chase, as opposed to Carr with his receivers, as opposed to Tua with his, as opposed to Cousins with his, etc. So I naturally would imagine that the Tua stack would be a little less. Well, okay, it certainly lacks the projections, but it's certainly going to be lower owned. I mean, if you want to pair Tua with Gesicki and Waddle, and you can get if you get that freaking done, I mean, you're a freaking hero. Then you could play like Adams as a one-off. You know what I mean? And then you can play like those other guys as one-off. So the only thing I just get a sense that the Tua good game is just a lot of just 23 for 28 for 2 touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like the Jets are good enough. You know what I mean? I think so. That I just don't see this real ceiling out of that type of game. I've heard a lot of people try to go to that game in fantasy. I just don't see it, man. I don't know what to tell you. I just think there's just so much more talent out of those other spots that you mentioned there. I think that the Vegas Bengals game is going to have it's interesting. I was about to say it's going to have more action. One thing that I noticed about Cincinnati, and this is just maybe the stats don't back this up. They don't turn the ball over too much, and I think that Carr also is pretty safe. I think so. I don't know how much action. I don't know. Maybe you'll see some more long drives in there. Maybe not quite as action packed. I don't know. And then the Packer games I talked about, you could get kind of a yawner there, but I don't know. I like all those ones. But the fact is that if through all of our groupthink, if we forget how good of a spot the Kansas City-Dallas game is, you know what I mean, by getting 2Q with all these other teams, we're going to regret it. You know what I mean? Like if it comes down at the end, by the way, Tyreek Hill is 8% owned. You know what I mean? Like, really? We all let that happen? You know, right? Or after all that, you get like Zeke to go off like 5% owned or something like that. You know what I mean? Against the worst defense in football, maybe. And believe me, as much as they like Prescott to do his thing, nothing Dallas would love more than Zeke Elliott to just run the freaking football. They would love for that to happen. And if Kansas City, just accommodates them, look, it's not gonna happen a lot. But if seriously, if it's Zeke 27 for 203 and 3 touchdowns, we're like, of course. You know what I mean? Like, sure, they're in the offing, and I think that's a big time leverage off of all the running backs that we talked about. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, look, it seems to be throughout the industry. This is what people are doing. They're gonna pay down for running back. There's 6,200 guys, or play Gaskin or whoever, and they'll pay up for Adams and all this stuff. If you play what would a lineup look like, by the way, with Zeke and I don't know, McCaffrey, something like that. Mm-hmm. And you want to go hey, David, you want to play? That's one thing. You want to play your Tua with Waddle and with Gesicki. You know what? Then you put like McCaffrey and Elliott there. I'll be at the party when they write me the check for $1 million. You know what I mean? That could definitely happen.
Right. I like everything you're saying. I would say though, if I was going to make a Tua stack, I would go skinny stack. I would just play one receiver. I think they're doing it so you can pay up at other spots like you're mentioning. Okay. But that for me, it would be just one of Gesicki or Waddle. That's the way I would treat it. Rody, what are your thoughts on those quarterbacks that David asked the question about? And then, sort of in general, what Sheets is talking about, maybe, paying down in certain spots so you can pay up for those big running backs.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are talking about Tua because he's cheap, right? So you can load up on the stars. Like you can get Adams in there, you get Hill in there. You can go like some big plays in there with Waddle. Waddle's seeing an uptick in volume. I do like that. I'm not going to get to any Tua because I'm playing like small volume today. But Cousins, I think Sheets liked earlier. He talked about that. You can 6-1 on DK. You'd be able to pay up. I do like Elliott today. I do like Christian McCaffrey. So putting him in a build like Sheets says could get you a pretty good different. I don't mind that, and that could be some major points right there. They could have 35-point upside, both of them. So I know there was a question in the chat about MVS. X Factor right there asked me in the YouTube chat. MVS, I do like. I have him in a one lineup just to kind of get a little weird. Nothing crazy with him, just in a lineup.
Yeah, I'll throw him in a lineup. I probably will throw Randall Cobb into a lineup as well, just in case. He's had a couple decent games this year, and no Lazard definitely opens things up a little bit. But I mean, we know Rodgers can spread. Other than Adams, Rodgers can spread it out to everybody else equally. You know what I mean? He doesn't need to do that. There's a guy we didn't talk about who I have some interest in. I mentioned him right at the beginning, Sheets. I don't think you were here. What about Justin Fields? I wish Lamar was playing. I actually think maybe it's actually better that he's not, because there's so many running plays that eat up the clock that when Lamar's running, as opposed to then maybe having to throw the ball. But you can play a really cheap Justin Fields, who's got the rushing upside. You play him with Kmet at tight end, who I really like at 3,400, or you play him with, or both, Mooney and Kmet, or just Mooney, or just Kmet. But I think that's the way I would prefer to go over Tua. What do you think about that, Brody, then Sheets?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing some talk about it. I do have some Kmet. I do like that. I do like that option. And I feel like Baltimore, I haven't really liked their defense all year. I mean, they had some good weeks, but
they had the one big week that everybody thought they were just awesome defense, and it just hasn't been that way any other.
They haven't really looked at stellar. So I think you can go with that route. No Lamar, maybe the 3 and outs for Baltimore, and Fields is getting the ball. They're throwing it a little bit more too. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind that. I think it's an option. He could have a big game day. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's put up 26 and 20 in his last 2 games. He looks like he's finally feeling a little more comfortable. And Pittsburgh, as much as we joke about how Pittsburgh is maybe a little bit fraudulent with their record, it certainly isn't because their defense. He actually played really well in that game for how tough of a matchup. I think Baltimore is a much easier matchup for him. And you can also run it back with Bateman on the other side at 4,500 is another pivot.
Who's quarterbacking for Baltimore?
It's going to be what's his name? I think Huntley.
Huntley, yeah, I think so.
All right, so let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. Do anybody like the Bears defense today?
I think that's viable. Huh. Yeah. What are they? Let me see. Where are they priced? I'm looking at my
2,500.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get some of that for sure. That makes a lot of sense, and that's a price range that I sort of I'm around that 2,700 range a lot, using a lot of Carolina and Seattle, hoping that if Kyler doesn't play.
Just to let you guys know what I just did. Okay, just transparency. Obviously, I can't give you the whole lineup, but I just did a lineup, just the Millie Maker. I just totally hand built it, and my 3 running backs are 3 guys that are all going to get 30. Right? They might not all get 30, but they all could get 30, and those are going to be Zeke Elliott against the Chiefs, Nick Chubb against the Lions, and Christian McCaffrey. Okay, and I filled it in with all guys that we like in other positions. I even have a little one-man stack with a run back. You get all good plays, and so I just won, just like I said, just in case.
I like that. I think it's a great way to go.
You say DK or FanDuel on that sheet?
DK.
DK. Okay.
DK.
Yeah, FanDuel's pretty easy to do it basically whatever you want. Yeah. it's crazy today. It's
FanDuel, I was like, FanDuel could probably do that easily.
It could be a very high scoring slate on FanDuel, because I just, for fun, I was like, okay, I'm going to see if I can play Kelsey Hill, Gallup, and I'll start off with Kelsey Hill, Gallup, Zeke, and CeeDee Lamb, just to see. No problem. Easy to do. I was like, wow, I'll take it.
Miami Mike is saying, sounds like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to play.
I think he's going to play too, but I don't think we're going to know for sure. But I think he's going to play. I don't know what that means, though. I really don't. I wouldn't be surprised if he's active and he's like the second string running back. It wouldn't surprise me the least bit. They finally found their groove. Williams has looked good. It looks. I don't know. That's what I think. I'm not playing Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'll tell you that right now.
What do you think of? I'm going to address some of these questions. I think some of them are really, really good. What do you like? Anybody like Byron Pringle today for the Chiefs?
I'm mixing in Pringle
all year, man.
What's that, Verdi?
I've been on Pringle all year.
Same here. I feel like every showdown we get, we're like, let's catch.
He scored a touchdown last game.
I know, and you could play him at 34, but you could also play Hardman. I mean, at 4K, and that's 4K, another way.
Yeah, it's tough today, man. There's some low 3K guys that I kind of want to get in there more.
Well, let me throw one more at you, Marcus Johnson. Anybody playing Marcus Johnson?
He's really popping. I'm seeing him pop. If I just run the optimizer, like he's popping.
Bobby, he is playing in that aforementioned lineup I just described.
Okay, there you go. There's another one that I thought was an interesting pivot at running back, and I don't think I have the nerve to do it. But here you have a team that's supposed to dominate more than anybody is on this whole slate. I have the biggest spread and everything, and you have a 4,900 running back that no one's playing, or I don't think many people are playing, in Deontay Foreman. For Tennessee.
Oh, people play him.
I've got him at like 5%. Maybe he does get more owned. I think there's just too many guys. So he and Collins, I think, are sort of falling by the wayside, but that could be a mistake. Rody, what do you think about those guys as pivots off of some of the other chalk?
Yeah, I'm actually falling in. I got some builds falling in that 4.9 to 5K range, and I plug Collins in there. So I don't mind that. I kind of tended to more Houston defense with the weather conditions there, but that also means good things for the running back if they can't throw the ball as much. Foreman should get some more usage for Tennessee over like a AJ Brown Tannehill stack. So I don't mind that play at 4.9 either. So
I mean, the weather in that game too is leaning is not looking great, which has got me a little bit off of what I thought was going to be one of my most popular plays in AJ Brown. I do have some of AJ Brown, but maybe that even speaks to the Foreman thing even a little bit better. It also has me a little bit less on Cooks, who I liked a lot to start the week, but I still have a little bit of them, just not that much. For what it's worth, the guy who I was I always am on the, hey, we don't want to play Cole Beasley when they're favored by 20 points or whatever, because they don't tend to need him as much in those games. And where he gets work is that 9, the loss to Jacksonville, he had 8 catches. The game against Miami, that was an actual blowout. He had 13 targets, 10 catches. But this is a game where I could see him getting more work, and I don't have very much Beasley. Any thoughts on Beasley by either of you guys?
Well, before I do that, I do have a little news that came in. Very, very little, but only because I had him in the lineup. Donovan Peoples-Jones is out.
Yes.
Is out?
He's out.
That means Rashard Higgins is going to start popping more too.
Okay.
Did you guys have any of him?
What about Jarvis Landry, though? Why not keep it simple?
Yeah, you could do that too. I need to get Chubb in a lineup. I really think I need to get Chubb in more lineups.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that might help the most is a guy who no one's going to play. The problem is they have 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends that they kind of split all the things. I'm always a sucker for taking a shot on Njoku's talent, but I don't think I'm going to do it today. I'm just throwing that out there. The thing about I want to say one more thing about this Beasley and talk myself into it a little bit more than I even was, because if what we're saying about the weather in that game is accurate, and we're worried about the ball being thrown downfield, and Allen has still had some good games in weather. Mostly it's been running, but a lot of dump offs down low, which would sort of speak more to Beasley. Maybe this is that Beasley 10 plus target week. The only thing that worries me is Sanders and Gabriel Davis getting in the way. But what did you say about Beasley, Rhodey? I didn't hear anything on that.
I didn't say nothing about Beasley. He's kind of like he's 4.8 on DK. I don't mind the price. He's getting a little bit of ownership at 9%. He is that underneath ball safety valve for Allen. So if it is a weather concern game and you want to play that route, I really like that idea. So
okay. Here's another name that I keep popping. So I'm seeing the ownership on Debo Samuel. I prefer all the other receivers around him. But I felt that way all year, and I've been mostly wrong because Debo Samuel just goes off every single week, it feels like. But what about Brandon Naiuk and Debo Samuel? Any interest in either of those guys for you starting with Sheets?
Well, I mean, Debo Samuel is either a semi-obvious or semi-non-obvious pivot off of Jeff Wilson. They could line him up in the backfield today. If for people like, oh, well, who else are they going to use except for Jeff Wilson? Jeff Wilson's only been back 1 week. You know what I mean? And even if they don't like Trent Sherman, which whatever his name is, who I'm not exactly convinced that's the case either. I mean, people say they don't like him, but do they actually say we don't like it? You know what I mean? Like they obviously don't like him. Okay, so maybe you think that, but if you have no options, I mean, whatever it is, or maybe next thing you know, it's a total split share, or maybe Sherman, they go to him. Who knows? But I think that Samuel is going to get he just has always such a huge package of plays for him. You know what I mean? And the absence of another running back just increases the possibility that more of those plays are going to be run for him. I mean, I think he's a good play almost every week.
Yeah.
He's had 3 30-point games this year and a few 20s. So, and all in the double digits. So.
Yeah, and I'm okay with I'm okay with it. I don't know why it's hard I just like all the other receivers in my stacks better than I like that spot. And I also have this sneaky feling like Jacksonville may have figured something out defensively. At least they've looked.
They've been pretty good. They've been pretty good defensively, actually.
Yeah.
They've
definitely improved. Another guy we didn't talk about, who is way cheaper than he should be. We don't even know necessarily how much Cam is going to be throwing the ball. We don't know who's going to. But DJ Moore is 5,900. Any interest for you guys in DJ Moore?
Yeah, I was just reading it's like how Facebook works, I guess. I was just reading the X Factors question here. What do you think about DJ Moore at 5.9? And Yeah, you start talking about DJ. It's almost like that's what Facebook does, man. Facebook. I'm walking down the street thinking about a hamburger, and then it pops right up on my phone. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I like DJ Moore. Rody.
Yeah, I talked to him about on the pick show. I think, we played him all year. He gets a lot of volume, and he's had a rough few games, and maybe they turn around and give him the ball. So,
yeah, I'm into it personally, but again, we can't play everybody. What I've got news from this show, guys, who I want to get more in my lineups because I gave away some of my ownerships earlier, but I want to get a little bit of Debo Samuel. I'll be below the field, but I want to have him in a couple lineups just because I think he's slate breaking type of ability. I want to get Brandon Naiuk into a couple lineups, Rondale Moore, Rondale and DJ Moore. I want a lot more Metcalf. I want a little bit of Foreman and Collins just because they're interesting pivots off the other guys, and we can also, in Collins' case, we can always shift around depending on if we have a lineup that's looking great. There's other pivots you can go to that maybe make more sense than Collins. Nick Chubb, I'd like to get more exposure to. It does worry me a little bit with the COVID thing for running backs because I think that you could, it does seem like, in the NBA, all the guys, it seems to take about a month before they really are back to strength after COVID. But it doesn't usually bother me for football because they're stopping and starting. But for running backs, if you're going to talk about a 25 carry running back, then it matters. MVS, Rodgers to Adams, I need more of. Cousins, I want a little bit of. I have plenty of Gaskin. Hardman and Pringle are guys who I think are interesting. And then Beasley is another one I'd like to get some more exposure to. Rody and then Sheets, why don't you say just some of your top owned plays, regardless of how popular they
are? Probably I'm going to own a lot of Gallup. I'm going to own a lot of Dylan. I'm going to try to get more Mahomes stacks. I like that. I'm trying to get a Kelsey Hill one right now. I kind of like that with some of that value running back. And then you can get more Gallup in there, one of those cheap receivers.
Like Gallup and Wilson. Gallup and Cedric Wilson.
Or Brian Edwards fits actually in there too.
Yep.
Because I had a Renfro with Chase pairing that I kind of liked. I like Lockett and Metcalf did it this week. So those are some of the guys I like. I like Kameta tight end like you guys talked about. So yeah, I like paying up for the running backs like Sheets talked about. I'm going to try to get a build like that in there here too, I think, with Chubb, McCaffrey, and Elliott even.
Regardless of ownership, just my top plays on DraftKings are T. Higgins, A.J. Dillon. I have both about 60%, which is not significantly over the field, I guess. Actually, Mark Ingram I have as the most. I have him at 75, actually, on DraftKings. And then I guess this might be significantly over. I don't know. I have 45% of Darren Waller. But I guess he's gonna be he has to be popular, right? The game's gonna be popular. So I got 40% of him, and then going against my better judgment, I can't get away from this. I have a full 40% of the freaking 50% of the Browns. I just don't see a world where they get less than 10 in this game. You know what I mean? I'm just not interested in anything that Detroit can do in this game at all. So. They're going to pop for everybody. They're going to be popular, but this one I'm just not getting away from. And I guess that could be a problem. But that's I guess my significantly over the field plays that I have.
All right, let's finish out with some questions here. Answer a few questions from the chat. Guys, pop in as many as you want. K9 Bronco asked me if I still like Uzoma. I do have Uzoma in a couple stacks, but I wouldn't play Uzoma. And I know K9 Bronco only plays on FanDuel, and I would not play on FanDuel. I think it's too easy to get the high-end tight ends on FanDuel. I wouldn't play Uzoma over those guys. Any interest at all in Uzoma for either of you guys? I'm going to guess the answer is probably no.
I like this price, but I didn't get to him, no.
I think it's a really, really good play in the Millie Maker, actually. And I might actually make sure to get some of that. He's got freaking upside. It's a game that everybody's going to play, and everybody's going to play Chase and Higgins, which makes sense. And everybody's going to play. And if you're going to play a tight end from that game, you're going to play Waller, right? So I think
together, by the way,
you could. That's what I'm saying. Right. It's extremely low. I think it's actually a really good tournament play, actually. But before I forget, FanDuel. I am playing FanDuel, and the guy and this is good. I know this is bad, I just know it. But I have like 90% Jeff Wilson. I just can't get away from that price. And I'm playing 150 over there. I got 90% Jeff Wilson. And he can get 12. He can get 6. I mean, it's possible.
He'll be live, yeah.
So we'll see what happens over there.
Yeah. I think trying not to play Jeff Wilson on FanDuel is something you really I had to go out of my way to try not to play him in all my lineups.
Yeah.
Even whether you like him or not today, it's 5K. I mean, it's kind of hard to not. Uzoma every 3 games has 2 TDs. Hey, I like it, James. There you go. I'll give my thoughts real quickly on Bateman. I'm obviously less interested without Lamar, but I still have some interest in Bateman as the number 1 receiver at 4,500. I think that's a really good pivot off of Gallup as well. I'm going to take a quick look at his ownership. I think it's going to probably be a little lower than what it's projected for, but let's see where Bateman stands. Unowned, so I don't think it's going to be anything to worry about. You do have Watkins and Duvernay, and they don't need to go to Bateman, but I think they like Bateman the best. So I would call him the wide receiver 1, and he's 4,500. What do you think about him, Rody? And then Sheets, jump over to you.
I like Bateman a little bit, but I'm not going to get to him in my builds. But I think 4,500, you can do it.
I don't want to play. I don't want to play guys getting passes from bad quarterbacks. I don't know. I don't think I want to do it.
Yeah, I'd rather play Mooney on the other side. Do you like Mooney?
I'd rather do that. I'd much rather do that.
I really like Mooney, and I don't understand why no one's playing him. Maybe it's just because we named a bunch of other good plays, but I like Mooney and Kmet both.
It's a tough slate today.
I don't think I'd play Bateman if Lamar were quarterback. I don't know.
I tend to not play a lot of Lamar or that team, so
yeah.
I'm the exact opposite.
Good. He gets a lot of underneath throws though, so I don't know. He can break one here and there soon, I think. So
yeah. I mean, actually, it might be the safer play. Like, I mean, I don't think you need to play Sammy Watkins on this slate, but I'm just saying he's another 4K guy that you could consider. That Huntley may be a little more comfortable with and more experienced receiver. I don't know. Okay, should we talk about Tyler Huntley? Like, I mean, he's 4,100, guys. Like, maybe we should consider a little bit of him. No, Brody?
I mean, people are starting to talk about him. I haven't updated my projections. He might pop.
Dude, just you know what? Someone else could play Joe Flacco. Someone else could play Huntley. Someone else could play Cam Newton. I don't know. I just
haven't got to update.
It's just not my thing. I don't know what to tell you. It's just not my thing. I guess if I played cash more, I would. But I'm playing cash today. I'm playing cash. I'm playing someone a little bit better than those guys. I'm playing Mahomes. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm doing. So I don't.
Yeah, check out the TrueDFS optimizer too. It's a pretty good lineup.
Yeah,
it's got Mahomes for cash, Wilson, Dillon, Ingram, and then Gallup, and then the few other chalk guys we talked about.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to play this stack, or I'm not going to stack this at all, but I do think Corey Davis and Jamison Crowder, but especially Corey Davis, are mildly interesting to me today. Maybe even Elijah Moore you could consider because his ability to take one big play. And if there's one thing Flacco's historically at least been able to do, it's been able to throw the long ball. So I don't know. I was answering another question.
You know what? X Factor, same thing. I mean, like you says, what do you think of Brandon Cooks? Actually, this is not as bad. I mean,
I think Brandon Cooks would be a great play. The problem is he's going to be somewhat owned, and that game has terrible weather.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
I keep forgetting that Tyrod Taylor's back. I thought we were gonna like play Cooks with what's his name throwing there.
Yeah, and by the way, Tyrod Taylor is probably more viable than this Huntley thing. I'm just thinking like he can move, he can run. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me. I might throw a Huntley lineup in just. That way you really can pay up at every position if you play Huntley to Bateman with a Kmet run back. I mean, you literally could just spend on everybody. And you could get a combined 40 fantasy points from those guys and run away with the slate. I mean,
you know what's cool? This is like such a great roadie slate because if it doesn't work out, he's got his freaking team all ready to fire in the showdown tonight with the Chargers.
Oh yeah, that's right, Rody. Ready to just go heavy on the Chargers tonight?
Beautiful. It's like perfect.
Don't forget Parham, assuming that he's still if he's in.
Dude, there's all kinds of crap you can play tonight in the showdown slate. Parham is like the most. Parham is like chalk compared to the guys I'm looking at. You kidding me?
I'm going to do I have to say, I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm going to do the Huntley Kmet Bateman stack. Like that little narrow stack, and then
do
make
that with those high price running backs. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll play Zeke and McCaffrey. I'll run it back on the other side with Tyreek Hill and Kelsey if I want to. Like, I mean, I could literally do that easily.
I still got one lineup to build too, so we'll see if I end up on something crazy like that.
I mean, Huntley, I'm telling you right now, he's going to be owned. I don't think people are going to let this completely slide by. He's 4.1. People.
Dude, now I can't stop thinking about this showdown later. So what's it? So Rhodey, I mean, it's not Joshua Palmer season for the Chargers today.
I haven't tended to play those guys. I mean, I don't know.
Now the only question is, do you play Palmer and Larry Roundtree III together, or just one of them?
You're getting crazy. I'd rather chop it for 3K and play Mike Williams captain.
He goes from being like the most projection-based, logical, and then every time a showdown thing comes up,
are you kidding? Yeah, absolutely.
Bring up guys' names. I'm like, who is that guy?
Exactly. If I've heard of him, I can't play him. You know, like
he likes like the ball boy and stuff.
It's definitely gonna be Fearmouth in the captain. I mean, that's a freaking line. He's legit. I mean, he's like probably the best receiver on the Steelers right now.
Steelers, oh god, it's garbage. 5-1 tonight.
All right, guys. Well, good luck to everybody out there. This has been the TrueDFS Sunday morning, Week 11 show. We hope that we were helpful. We hope you guys crush it. Let's see some screenshots in there. Last week I had a good week, but it wasn't quite a screenshotty week. Let's get somebody in the screenshots, 5 figures, or 10x your return on your investment. That's what we
do.
Dude,
in worst case, I'll be updating the hockey projections later.
Oh my God! There you go. We're all going to be sweating all this stuff and like, damn, I won 5,000, but it felt like a good week and all this stuff. And oh, by the way, I won 30,000. I won the hockey tournament. All right, guys, it's been a ball. Good luck to everybody out there. I hope you all crush it.
Good luck, everybody.